All right, so we're back again, brought to you by Coffee Solves Nearly Every Problem. And today's problem that we're going to end on is evaluations and the system of evaluating ourselves and whether we can include parent evaluations on us. I think parents should have a say on how we did. We're serving their children, we're serving their families. Why don't they have a say on how we did? Did we communicate with the parents well? Did we do timely feedback with the parents when they contacted us? I think those are really valid questions to ask, as well as students and having their perspective on their year regarding us. Was I available to you to talk? When you asked a question, was I attentive to you? And several other discussions. Did you always know how you were doing in the class, or was it a surprise at the end of the trimester or at the end of the quarter? So I think these valid conversations are not part of our teacher evaluation programs that we have in our schools, but I think they would register a whole lot more in-depth conversation that maybe
how often do people have to get
exactly? Yay, Wessel.
Sorry.
You had 78% of your kids pass reading. You must be a really good teacher.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How often does everybody get evaluated, or
It depends on what year you are in the cycle.
right?
It's peer evaluation, observation every year, and then it's the principal every 3 if you're tenured.
But sometimes we've been evaluated, not heard feedback.
Right.
So I don't know.
I've had to ask for it.
I think, Pernilla Rip, if you don't follow her, you should. She's done a lot more with asking her students for feedback, and I think it's a scary thing to ask the kids because you're going to get kids who are telling you things you really don't want to hear, but we need to hear them.
We do.
And that's, I think, the most truthful evaluation we can get. And I don't know if that needs to be tied to our teacher evaluation, but wouldn't that make us all better teachers if we just asked them and the parents?
We had the first year we rolled out PBL in the afternoon. We encouraged. I didn't require it. We asked our teachers to consider giving the kids 3 questions at the end of their PBL cycle, which is 5 weeks, and it was, what did you like about this PBL? What didn't you like about this PBL? And what could we do to make this? What suggestions would you have to make this PBL better? None of them were directed at the teacher. It wasn't anything about the teacher. It was all about the PBL experience, and it did. Not everybody did it, but those that did some of them really began to reshape their first cycle, what their first cycle looked like, to the end of their last cycle, which was like 5. I think there was 5 cycles or 6 cycles total that they went through.
Isn't that the purpose of it?
Yeah.
It's to make yourself a better teacher.
Yeah, it is. And the nice part is because our PBL time is not graded. We don't really fight kids. We have some that don't like to do it, obviously, but by and large, we don't fight kids. They know it's not graded. It doesn't go on the report card, but many of them enjoy doing what they're doing, even without that grade. And then that feedback is what I think makes it even better, so the grade becomes even less relevant because it's constantly getting improved. So that gets into that grading piece of, how do you get feedback from kids so that if they have to drink your Kool-Aid for a high school credit, that they're doing it not focused on the grade, they're focused on the right work and the learning. But just 3 easy questions.
But not an easy topic. How do we get them to do that, to be intrinsically motivated? That's huge.
I'm not a good evaluator. I don't like doing teacher evaluations. Not because I don't think there's value in there. To be brutally honest, I still at 53 feel very uncomfortable unless somebody is really, really off. I just am really uncomfortable saying to somebody, boy, I think you should do better in this. I really think this needs to look this way. So I'm constantly trying to work on how can I do it in coaching language, because I'm just not comfortable telling people that. It hurts my heart to say to somebody, unless it's egregious, to say, because it's kind of insulting, because my superintendent sees me maybe 3 times a year, but not an evaluation, but in total, and really doesn't see what I do every day because they're so busy. So when they hear things and they put it in your evaluation, it's like, well, that was one time, it wasn't the whole year. And that's what we do to teachers. We see them one time, maybe 2, and then the next 3 years we don't see them. Well, that's just a crap system.
Which is that has worked that I found that a lot of us use, which is social media, and to share our story from our classroom, and then to share it with our administrator, because I know that the administrators are busy and they can't always show up. But you have a story to be told, and only you can tell that story. So share your story, you know, sign up for Twitter, blog about what you're doing.
You know, Corey, that's a good point, because I wish, like in Iowa, we have to have a portfolio. When you're on cycle, you have to have a body of evidence that you're making. Some teachers look at it as, oh, I can prove myself. I've been doing this 20 years, I can prove myself. And that, to me, hits the nail on the head with, I am going to tell my story so well via this body of evidence that if my principal dropped over dead tomorrow, the new person coming in could look at that and go, wow, rock star teacher.
Right, because someone's going to tell your story.
If we don't
Which
tell it.
version of it did you want it to be told?
Exactly.
I think
So-
that's a good point too, because if we're asking our kids, we want them to be project-based learning and base them on something they're showing rather than taking a multiple
Oh,
choice
wow.
test. Why should we be graded on a multiple choice test in numbers and a rubric when we could show it through a portfolio or through blogging or having a 10-minute walkthrough with advice of things that could be helpful?
And the thing I
But
find
guess
is,
you're somebody that values that kind of.
Yeah, because actually my supervisor has started doing 10-minute walkthroughs, and it was great. Just, I don't look at it as criticism, but something just, hey, this is what I saw. But it'd be nice to have that more often. Like,
Right.
I think that's what a lot of teachers crave. And also, I think it's our job, like you said, to tell the story. And I know our school has been trying to get a lot more people to do that and show what we're doing, to share not only for parents, but for what's going on in our school, and to keep us all going, wow, look, and sharing what we're doing right now. And I think that's great, because if somebody does leave, and you have a great rapport with one person, how are they going to know what you've been doing?
Right.
And maybe you do have a bad day and they walk in for that 10-minute walkthrough, and then how are you going to defend what was going on?
and I think one of the things with the teacher eval system right now is that when you get to your formal evals, it's hard to make them about improvement and development. You know, when you get to the rubric, it's a job piece, it's a formal piece, it's a legal piece in some cases, where when I go into a classroom to improve a teacher, there's not a rubric. It's a conversation. It's you know, hey, I noticed this. What did you think? How did you think that worked out compared to what you were expecting? How could you tweak that? What other options would you have had, or other ways you could have approached that? But to me, we're kind of in a system where, because of some of the requirements coming down on what the teacher development or teacher evaluation model has to look like, it's not about making them better anymore. It's about documenting where they are, and that's a sad place to be in. So I think it's even more important to do some
And
of
I
those other
think
things that are about development.
The example I've been using, I feel like it's picking apart the teaching. Like, you know, if you look at a masterpiece and all of a sudden you're starting to look at 10 specific things in that piece of art, it stops being a masterpiece. You know, then you lose focus on the whole picture. And because this year I was an old teacher being a new teacher, so I had to go through the whole getting observed 3 times again, and that was an amazing, challenging process for me. And my principal and I have talked about this, and I just felt like, you know, because he had to look at specific things, it lost the focus of who I was as a teacher a little bit.
And from the student perspective, because again, it's a multiple choice test. It's not showing the outcome of the project you've been working on, which is what the actual students are
Right,
gaining from
yeah.
you as a whole.
Yeah.
Because we all have different styles, and you can't really put that on paper.
I would love to see like more teacher goal setting at the beginning, and I've had to do goal setting officially in different districts that I've worked in, but it usually has to fit in their framework, and what I need to work on as a professional might not fit in their framework. And I know, you know, I've been in some districts where you do this goal setting and it's tied to money. So if you don't meet that goal, you don't get that pay. And so then you have teachers that are picking some artificial goal that they know that they can meet so that they, you know, whatever. And it is, and I get it. I mean, it's the system that we're in, but I would just love to see more teacher reflection and really forcing teachers to think about, what am I good at and what do I stink at? What do I need to get better at? I mean, if you're a professional, you know what that is, you know? And then if you're gonna have that admin come in and do those observations, make sure they know what that is, and they can be that mirror then to say, you told me you want to get better on practicing your kids' speaking and listening skills. Here's what I saw, and what do you feel like you're making progress on that?
And I think
and that makes me think about, oftentimes, middle school people, you oftentimes they have team time, okay, and they have time to work with their colleagues, and that's awesome. And what I have found out over the years, many years, that if you put well-intentioned, good people together on a topic, they'll create more work for themselves. And I don't have to make those stuff. And I'm thinking about what you just said in terms of the evaluation process. If the conversation starter with coffee, right, can be about, what do you guys see from me as a teacher, as your colleague? What do you hear about me from the kids? What do you see when I'm in the classroom? And start asking those questions and then develop the goals around that. That is a much safer environment. And then you can bring that to your principal if that fits in your system now. But I hate getting my evaluation, whether it's my current superintendent or the ones I've worked with. I hate it. I just absolutely dread going in that day for my observation, and I struggle with why, because I don't think I'm a turd, but you never know. You don't have to edit that.
And Steve just kind